Good morning, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, quite the exciting weekend, my friend.
It's starting to take shape. We're actually down to 2 slots left in the Bass Pro Tour.
Based upon your estimations.
Yeah,
or is
and based on, there's a couple sites that are running the angler tracking lists through social media, and it's weird to see all this play out through social media, Mark, because that's really where we're getting all of this information from, if it's not a press release from MLF, FLW, or B.A.S.S. But it looks like the fields are about set. Obviously, no official word for the field. The MLF field is set. Who knows what the heck they're going to do on the Elite? So, fortunately, we got someone on who might be able to tell us a little bit of that information.
Well, we're going to have the Vice President, Director of Communications for Bass, Mr. Dave Precht. And I think he's been there longer than Tripp. So I think he is the longest reigning Bass employee. He has been through, I believe, every single ownership at Bass. And we're going to see if he can answer some of our questions on the status, because bottom line, Matthew, is the vast majority of guys that would have requalified for the 2019 Bassmaster Elite Series are now fishing Major League Fishing.
Let me just run down some numbers as of 8:33 a.m. on Tuesday. Is it already October 2nd?
Yes, it is.
Already Halloween month. 66 Elite Series anglers have committed to MLF. The only 2 and now I don't know if Mark Daniels Jr. got an invite. I would think he did. Wouldn't you, Mark?
What's that?
I haven't seen Mark Daniel Jr.'s name on the list of guys who got an invite.
I have not
seen him on the list of times who haven't. We're assuming he got an invite. And then Mike Iaconelli obviously got an invite, and he's supposed to have a show later tonight where he's going to talk about it. He's been pumping all sorts of stuff for the last week. Yeah. So those are the only 2 we think. But there's 66 Elite Series anglers that are committed to MLF. There's 10 FLW anglers that are committed to MLF. Out of the invitations, there are only 6 anglers who were invited to fish the Bass Pro Tour who turned it down. Those would be Seth Feider, Chris Zaldane, Bill Lowe, Steve Kennedy, Drew Benton, and Stetson Blaylock. There's 15 anglers who I assume did not receive an invite to the new tour who came out and committed to the Elite Series. And as of now, there are 23 anglers who have not made an announcement on their social media. One of them being Marizo, who retired at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. But there's a number of other guys. I've got it all, kind of printed out and color coordinated here. But, it looks like a kind of a 6.5 to 1 ratio Elite Series to FLW guys. But yesterday, Monday, was a big day for MLF announcements. Huge.
Go ahead. Keep going. I know what you're going to say. Keep going.
Well, we'll start out. They got the GOAT, Andy Morgan.
Yes.
I mean, that takes 21 years of FLW Tour experience, 66 top 10s, and 3 Angler of the Years away from FLW, and moves that over to the Bass Pro Tour. And then they went with I call it young guns with hardware.
Okay.
Jordan Lee, the back-to-back reigning classic champ, MLF. And then basically within an hour period, Justin Lucas, who just got the Angler of the Year hardware on Chateaug, goes to MLF. And then last night, Brandon Polinick, the 2017 Angler of the Year, goes to MLF.
Yeah. So what's the number now?
The number's up to, they got 78. Ish came out yesterday. A number of other guys did, but 66 Elite Series committed to MLF. And this is what we were talking about before the show started. Going down that list based on Angler of the Year and double qualifies, requalified, no less than 30 of the 50 anglers competing in this year's Bassmaster Classic will be fishing in their last Bassmaster event. I would say at least for the next 3 years, at the very least. It'll be their last classic. It'll be the last, because if you look, there's 30 of the 50. So basically 2 out of every 3 anglers that cross the classic stage will do so knowing that they will not be crossing a Elite Series stage the following year. Now, that's not to say they won't fish the Opens and maybe qualify for a Classic through that, but
or fish the Federation,
or fish the nation. It hasn't been the Federation for a long time.
I might be going back to that.
30 of them, dude. 30.
Yeah, that's crazy. That will be the most bizarre Classic, I think, in the history of the game.
Be very interesting to see, a lot of that Classic hype and a lot of the videos and everything that's shown prior to that Classic is to build the history of it, to talk about KVD's 4 Classic titles and Jordan Lee's back-to-backs. It'll be interesting to see how they highlight that, knowing that those anglers are no longer with the organization following the conclusion of that tournament.
Yeah. By the way, where do you have David Fritz on that list?
I have David Fritz not highlighted. Has he
I
said anything?
I believe he is. I just received word via text that he is fishing bass.
Okay. I don't have that confirmed. I haven't seen him say that, so I'm not putting that
Is
down.
he a big social media guy?
No, I have no idea if he knows. He knows how to log on to the Facebook.
All right. Well, we're going to have Dave Precht on here in about 15 minutes, and we'll see if he can give us some insight on the direction. And here's the situation, Matthew. From a business standpoint, this is devastating.
It's
All
not
right?
good.
It's devastating.
For Bass.
For Bass, when you lose that many big-name players. And, you aren't old enough to remember this, but do you recall, or maybe you saw the 30 for 30 on the USFL?
100% remember it.
All right, and there was
documentary.
A big deal about a lot of the big-name guys from that collegiate class that were not signing with the NFL. They were going to go ahead. They were going to sign. Herschel Walker being one of them.
Who's that dude from OU who signed with the USFL?
Well, Marcus Dupree went to the New Orleans Breakers, but that was different. That's not the point that I'm trying to make. Initially, there was a tremendous pull to get a lot of the NFL players to not renew their contracts with the NFL and make the move over to the USFL. And then also a lot of the younger players that were coming out of college, they were trying to recruit them to make the move, and they paid them a lot of money to go over on the USFL side. This really, it is a comparison, but at the same time, you did not have a mass exodus of NFL players and, first-round draft picks that took place when the USFL was formed from a football standpoint. With this bass fishing situation, it's been gutted.
You've got
There's
Tom
no
Brady,
other way
you've got Drew Brees, you've got Aaron Rodgers, you've got everybody going to the
for the most, and that's not to take away from the guys that have made the decision to fish bass. That's not what I'm doing.
A lot of quality guys left.
Right, that's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is I'm making an analysis that from a performance standpoint, dude, it's been gutted. Mm-hmm. It has been gutted.
I think two, obviously you look at the names, the Van Dams and all that, but I think two of the big losses for Bass and big pickups for MLF that will really help them excel in their goal of gaining fans and gaining traction in this brand new league.
Yeah.
So it's a win, a major win for MLF. And the two names I'm going to say, one of them's Gerald Swindle. Gerald came out, obviously had a heartfelt Facebook announcement too, but Gerald Swindle has probably, and he likes to say it on stage, and it's hard to disagree with him, the most passionate, kind of dedicated fan base in the game, wouldn't you say?
100% agree.
And
100%.
I feel like if Swindle had come out, if he had decided to stay with Bass and said, man, this is where I'm going, this is where my heart is, this is where I'm staying, you'd have a whole bunch of his followers who are like, Bass all the way. And you look at it, now they're MLF guys.
Yeah.
And then also Jason Christie in Oklahoma. You know how big he is here in Oklahoma and the decision that he made. There's a whole bunch of people in this part of the country who follow his career very, very closely, feel connected to him. So big pickups for MLF and those two of guys who kind of waited towards the end of that announcement period to make their decisions.
Now, one of the questions that we will ask Dave, whether he can answer this or not, who knows? But now a determination or a procedure has got to be put into place on what do they do to try and fill the remaining spots. All right. Do they go down the opens list? Do they call guys that have been Elite Series pros in the past and go, hey, man, you want to take a stab at it once again? Here, come on, we'll give you a spot. Or do they have some kind of qualifying event to put forth the effort on anybody that would be interested in being an Elite Series pro? You have a series. I know they have the opens, but there is so much mystery in how they are going to fill the remainder of those spots. What was the number 30 right now is what you calculated? Maybe
there's 15 non-invitees who committed. There's 6 invitees who have non-committed. Yeah. So I guess 21. As of right now, there's 21 who have committed. But of those 23 that have not, if you get 20 of those back, you're at 40. So you've got half of the field. And of those guys who are invited back, remember with the $2,500 for each tournament plus the $20,000 credit, technically they're not going to have any entry fees for next season, even though they do have to come up with the 43 off the top.
Yeah. So how are you going to fill those remaining spots? Hey, my phone rang twice yesterday from former Elite Series guys that were asking, hey, do you think there's a chance that I might be able to get in?
It's a very good question. I think there is.
But you need to call.
And we'll ask Dave this, but you also have to, B.A.S.S is in a new era, obviously now. And based upon what they have produced, what they have offered the anglers, based on what they've said, the Elite Series is still very important to them. All the new live programming that's scheduled, the emphasis on the coverage, the exposure. So now moving forward, you have to figure out, not just for next year, how are you just going to fill the field for 2018, but how are you going to put something into place for the years to come as well? Is 80 the new number now? Is it ever going to go back up to 110? If you listen to Brandon Polinick's MLF announcement, which I did, and I listened to that very carefully. You want to talk about a guy, I'll be honest, I value his opinion just about as much as anybody in the industry, because he's young, he has a lot of career ahead of him, he understands the importance of social media, he understands the grassroots. The guy came up through the Bass Nation, he made his name in that 2011 Bassmaster Classic where he went head-to-head with Kevin Van Dam. Remember that? He's won Elite Series. He's won the Angler of the Year. He's good with the sponsor game. And he genuinely cares about the sport and about growing the youth. I mean, that guy went around, fished the FLW Tour as a co-angler, videoed all that stuff when he was a kid that no one had ever heard about. And you forget how he came up through those steps and how influential he is with the younger generation. And I firmly believe that if he did not feel that MLF was good for the future of the sport, he would not have made that move after listening to what he had to say. I really believe that. I don't think, and all the guys will say, future of the sport, growing the sport, money doesn't have anything to do with it. That's BS. There's a lot of those guys where money has a lot to do with it, Mark. But based on what Polinick said, I put a lot of value into what he said. And, he talked about there's a non-disclosure and stuff that he can't sign with MLF, but I don't think that if he didn't have the utmost confidence that they would provide a platform in the future for younger anglers to move on up through the ranks, that he wouldn't have made that move.
I believe that there are 4 moves that B.A.S.S can make right now from a business perspective.
All right.
One being, hey, just continue with what you've laid out there, fill the field, whatever method and whatever qualification you want to throw down to get to the number 80, have at it, go out there, run with it, and continue. All right. Along with that, though, not another category, but along with it, I think this is a massive opportunity for B.A.S.S to build the grassroots. Agreed? I think it's a mammoth opportunity for them to step out and potentially re-energize what the foundation of the brand was built on in the beginning. All right, because they've kind of gotten away with that whole diversion between the federation and the nation, and that whole thing that took place 10, 12, 15 years ago, whatever it was, really kind of divided the grassroots angler. All right, the people that were heavily involved in that. I think some evaluation needs to take place on where and what direction that they go to capture that marketing or marketability to that group. All right, will that get reestablished? Who knows? We'll see. The second thing is they totally restructure the entire platform that they have if for some reason they're not able to fill the 80 angler field. And then obviously the two other options is you liquidate and you just get out of it, and then obviously sell the whole thing and just move on down the road and take what either loss or gain you have and go do something else.
Here's an image, and you can't see this if you're looking at iTunes. So that's a pyramid, right?
Yeah.
There's a base there.
That's an ugly pyramid.
Then there's a long, skinny chute, and then there's the top cap.
Okay.
The Elite Series is the top cap. What was built on Bass is the 500,000 members.
Yeah.
Dude, you're only getting like hundreds to maybe 1,000 comments on all this stuff on Bass that it's posting. That means there's 490 some thousand anglers who still are members of Bass, who get the patch, who get the magazine, who look on the website, who don't care about the Elite Series. They want to catch more fish. They want to go out, help their grade.
Yeah.
This part is what happened when they started looking at the elites, when they started putting so much emphasis on that top level. All the coverage mainly based. They go to a little bit less of the, I guess, education, grassroots stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the base is still there. You can just take the top cap off, and yeah, a lot of that pyramid crumbled, but the base is still there. There ain't saying nothing you can't rebuild it.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to bulldoze the whole pyramid.
No, I agree. It's still an iconic brand from a historical standpoint. All right. But now that brand has been, kind of punched with a left and an uppercut and a right cross.
And who's to say that the general public who does it says, man, Bass is still where my heart is, and screw it, we'll just find all new stars. And comes out, and some dude who was 18th in the Open comes out and wins 3 Elite Series tournaments next year and wins the Classic, and they're just as good as they were before.
If Bass makes the decision that they are going to continue, they're going to field the 80, boom, move on down the road, it is a huge opportunity for not only the people that have made the move over to Major League Fishing, huge monetary opportunity for them. It's also a massive opportunity for a lot of people over on the Bass side too. Mm-hmm. All right, that is an opportunity that they may and probably would have not received if it wasn't for the actions of the formation of Major League Fishing.
May
not
have received.
They're going to receive.
Okay.
All
This
right?
is the key word in this whole thing from the very start of it: opportunity.
Yeah. On every aspect.
Opportunity.
Yeah, I agree.
Every single angler who signed that MLF contract, massive opportunity. Everyone who's on the Bass side, massive opportunity.
Yeah. Man, the instant feedback's blowing up today. All right, we're going to take a break. Come back with the VP, Director of Communications for Bass, Mr. Dave Precht. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The most versatile fishing machine on Earth. Unparalleled resolution and clarity, with more agility, lightning speed, and brute strength. HDS Carbon takes rapid response performance and screen technology to an all-new level. Maximized power, maximized visibility. See Structure Scan 3D, new dual chirp sonar, new live network sonar, and more mapping options, all at the same time and faster than ever before.
Pros depend on hydraulic jack plates to get the best out of their boats. Do what they do. Demand Atlas performance. Atlas gets you from the bottom to the top in less than 8 seconds, even with the big 4 strokes. And when you gotta turn right around and get that heavy load back up in rough water, Atlas's innovative design and American-made components will get you there with confidence.
I'm at Depot. Just look for yourself. There's an Atlas jack plate on just about every professional's boat.
The Atlas hydraulic jack plate. You can depend on it.
My rods look different because they are different. Every rod is built by the pros and for the pros. When you pick up a white ducket fishing rod, you're getting a cutting-edge rod one that's truly pro-driven, with the actions you need for every bait category you fish. I put my name on it. It's my promise to build you a great rod you can count on.
Duck It Fishing, Micro Magic, Macro Magic, or White Ice.
Try them. They work.
Fishing just got easier, and it didn't cost you a thing. Free feature upgrades from Lowrance. Fish Reveal delivers the best of chirp sonar and downscan imaging, all on one screen, and it's going to help you find more fish. High visibility color sonar take high contrast imaging to a whole new level. It delivers the absolute best views of structure. Fish like to hide there, but their hiding days are over. These features are ready to roll when you are. Just upgrade your HDS Carbon software.
Hey guys, Russ Lane, Bassmaster Elite Series Pro. Man, I am so excited to be joining the AFCO Pro staff. They got some really cool, innovative products to help you have a more enjoyable, comfortable day while you're out there on the water. Really stylish, great functional clothing. You're gonna love it. The thing I'm most excited about though is AFCO has pledged to donate 10% of their total profits back to supporting the conservation of our fisheries, and I am all about supporting a company that's about supporting conservation so that we can enjoy our bass fishing for a long time. Check us out, AFCO.
Jacob Wheeler and Tommy Biffle have a lot in common.
Flat bill. The perfect shape. You gotta love some white tackle.
I know I have a spinning rod.
I love my hammer crawl.
Biffle bug.
Rigged
on a hardhead.
Well, they could be twins. Bifflebug, hammer crawl, hardhead, from Gene LaRue.
Let me help you, man.
Let me help that hat.
Whoa.
There you go. I already looked better.
When I talk about Sunline, I think of one word: confidence.
Sunline FX2 is what I use for all of my frogging and flipping.
S61 braid, which braid plays a big part in fishing line.
Shooter, I'm going to use in those close quarter deals like flipping and pitching.
One of my favorite techniques in fishing the tournament trail is to fish offshore ledges.
We have taken the questions out of the equation.
Take my word for it. It works. It works, dude.
All right, we are back here on a Tuesday, kicking off the week. And Matthew, yesterday was the first official day to open the 2018-2019 basketball season.
Oh, great. Now we got 3 months of you complaining about freshman basketball.
No. Ran their butts yesterday. Got to get in shape. We're going to get up and down the floor. All right. We want to bring in our guest today, a man that has been in this business, I believe, over 40 years. We will confirm that. And I also believe that he has been an employee of B.A.S.S during every single owner. And we will confirm that also. But a very challenging time for the management staff and really everybody involved with B.A.S.S. So I thought it'd be a great idea to get Dave on the show. I'm talking about Dave Precht, the Vice President, Director of Communications for B.A.S.S, and get his take on a lot of stuff, especially with the developments over the weekend. So let's bring him in. Dave, you there?
I'm here. Thanks for having me, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. The first question is that a correct statement that you have been an employee of B.A.S.S for every single ownership group or person of B.A.S.S?
That's correct. Came to work for Ray Scott in 1979, and then worked through Helen Sevier, his successor, ESPN, and then the group owned by Don Logan, Jerry McKinnis, and Jim Copeland, and now Anderson Media.
Is this the most challenging time that you've had in that 40-plus years, Dave?
You know, it feels like it because it's so fresh, but I remember another time that's very, very similar, and that was when in 2006 when we had the Elite Series starting up, and some of the pros didn't like what we were going to do. FLW saw an opportunity there and lured away at least half of the field that qualified for the Elite Series and more than half of the Classic field in that year. So that was very painful. A lot of parallels with this situation now.
Dave, I've known you for a tremendous amount of time, and obviously you're in the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, and that ceremony took place last week. Were you there for that ceremony?
Yes, I was. I served on the board.
Yeah. What was the vibe there? What was the vibe with everything taking place in the industry?
I think everybody went out of their way to put the conflict out of their minds, and we just celebrated the sport. There were some great people honored. Of course, Kevin Van Dam and Gary Klein, two of the movers and shakers in MLF, were receiving their induction awards. But also Helen Sevier, the second owner of Bass, and a wonderful woman who contributed so much to this sport. And then Tommy Sanders, Bert Bedell, founder of Berkeley and Company. What an impressive guy, 97 years old and just sharp as a tack, loves to fish, and I really admired him. And then Dr. James Henshaw, I'm sure you know who that is.
Yeah.
Father of bass fishing. I didn't know him. He was a little bit before my time, but it was a great ceremony. Of course, there were a lot of folks from MLF, a lot of the owners of angler owners of the Major League Fishing were there. But everybody was cordial and raised a lot of money and had a great time.
All right, Dave, what right now can you tell us about the facts are that a large number of Elite Series anglers have made the move from the Elite Series over to Major League Fishing. What can you tell us about what your plans are to fill those spots and fill the remainder of your field for 2019?
We're still working on that. We have a published system of filling up the Elite Series, qualifying people for that, and that's mainly through the Opens, the Bassmaster Opens. The championship is 2 weeks from now, and in that event, according to what we've already published, there will be 11 of the top Opens anglers who will qualify for the Elite Series. And then I think we also take someone from the Bass Nation. And beyond that, we have the leeway to go even further down the Opens list. But we are in consultation with the anglers who have committed to stay with us. And, going forward, we want to be very much in collaboration with the anglers and make sure we get buy-in there. So other details have not even been determined yet. We have published a target of 80 anglers. We think that would work best for payouts and for field size. It's certainly more manageable than 108 or 10, which we've had in past years. So this is a good opportunity to cut the field down to 80, and that'll be good for the ones who stay with us, and that'll be good for the sport as well. If we don't, we may not try to get to 80. 70 is a good number too, and then over the years, a number of the pros have always thought that 50 is the right number for the Elite Series, but none of that's been determined yet. We're still talking about it.
Dave, this is Matt here. 110 guys this past year. Obviously, every single angler has a different relationship with the organization they fish for, regardless of what organization that is. But out of the 110, what percentage of those guys? Uh-oh.
That's not me.
You there?
Yes, I'm here.
Sorry. What percentage of those guys do you think have called Bass, have reached out to you, have talked to you, to where you feel really have made a vested, informed decision on this, have had deep conversations on both sides of the fence, as opposed to the guys who just go, oh, this guy's staying, so I'm going to stay, or this guy's leaving, so I'm going to leave? How much time do you think the average Elite Series angler has invested in his decision?
Not as much as I would have thought. There's a group of, maybe 20 of those guys that it was really, really painful. to leave. They felt that they had built their careers on the Elite Series, and yet they were tempted to go over and try something new. The first wave, of course, they were planning to leave already. I think many of them were kind of looking at retirement and seeing this as a retirement plan for them. And then they began recruiting over past months, I don't know, maybe years, a number of other anglers to join them. And then pretty soon they hit a tipping point, and a whole slew of anglers just said, well, my buddies, my roommates over there, I want to be there. I don't want to miss out. So some made the decision on that basis, but I'd say about a third of the field that I'm aware of, that contacted us, and they really did some soul searching. We contacted them too prior to their decision making, and we reached out to talk to everybody in the 110 or 11 candidates for requalifying, and their answers were all over the board. But I think most of them just thought it was, they wanted to try this new thing.
Dave, why do you think this situation took place?
Well, there's a variety of reasons. I wish you'd ask some of those guys. I'm sure that some of the reason that people left is they felt that we hadn't changed entry fees and payouts. We hadn't put more money into it over the recent years. They weren't aware of what we had done in increasing payouts in Toyota Texas Fest or in Angler of the Year Championship and the other things that we've done just in the past few years. But, the perception is reality. They probably, thought that the industry is booming, therefore Bass must be booming, and they're just keeping all the money. And so that's probably a part of it. There were some other reasons that they might resent something we do. I don't know. Everybody, I guess there's probably 80 different reasons those guys went over there. But I don't think the ones who reached back out to us, and there were about 20 of them who called or wrote and were very nice and said, most of them said it's not something that you did or failed to do. We just want to try this new opportunity. So I think that's mostly it. I hope so.
All right. What is the possibility that some of the former Bass Elite Series pros might get an invitation to come back and fish the Elite Series in 2019, such as a Zell Rowland or a Charlie Hartley or somebody like that?
We've heard from them and quite a few others who have fished the Elite Series at one time or another. They'd love to come back, and they were very important to us. But that's a stage of filling the field that we haven't reached yet. And as I said, we're in discussions with the anglers and with kind of an advisory board of industry people who, not anglers, but who really love bass and want to see us succeed and continue to contribute to the sport. So we'll cross that bridge when we need to come to it.
Dave, and this is kind of a tough question, and you may not be able to answer it, but I'm really curious just from a media perspective. Are you going to continue to showcase stories, videos, articles, both in the magazine and on the website, of anglers that are no longer fishing the Elite Series or fishing bass?
I thought we would look at some of the, the Major League Fishing website and their TV show and see how much they expose the anglers now on the Elite Series. And if they do that, we might consider that as well. Now, seriously, I don't know any league that really goes beyond its players. We have a commitment to those who compete with the Elite Series and put stake their careers with us to promote them as much as possible. They've got great stories to tell. They're wonderful people, and they're excellent anglers. And so by the time we give them the coverage they're due, I don't know if we're going to have a lot left over for the ones who've left for MLF. But, we haven't taken anything down off the website, and, we want to see how it all shakes out and who's actually in their lineup.
Dave, what has the feedback been from a business perspective as far as the response that you've received from some of your sponsors and some of the really important companies that have been involved with B.A.S.S for a number of years? Do you feel confident that you're going to continue to get the support from the companies that have been a part of B.A.S.S for a number of years?
We'll do our best. I'm not the one who is in contact with all the sponsors and advertisers. We do have long-term contracts with probably most of them, and that's good. It'll give us a chance to show that we're not down and we're not out, and that's important. We have every confidence that we'll start the 2019 season and we'll continue pick up where we left off. The players and the names and the faces may be different, but the sport's going to be the same, and we're going to continue to do what we've always done best. We pioneered live streaming of events, and that's growing by leaps and bounds every year. And our other media can bring so much exposure to bear on the sport and the anglers and it's very important to be in multiple platforms or facets of media, not just television, not just internet, but we have the industry leading magazines. We have an independent research company measured Bassmaster magazine and said that 4.4 million people read that every month or every issue, and you can't match that in television or internet or anything else. And so we're very proud of that, and I think that's going to carry us through any kind of hiccup we might have in the coming months.
One of the numbers is always thrown out as the half million B.A.S.S members that have the shield on their 1995 pickup truck, take the grandkids fishing, maybe want to catch a fish or two. At B.A.S.S, do you guys have a pulse on what, I guess, percentage of the membership is following what has happened over the past several weeks in bass fishing? Are there a lot of members who are writing in, who are calling, saying, or are they going, man, we don't really care about the Elite Series. We're here for what B.A.S.S has represented, what I've been a member for 25 years, and we don't care what goes on at the very tip of it. We care about what B.A.S.S can provide us from an information and informative and an entertainment standpoint, not just the 100 or the 80 guys now who are doing this for a living.
Yeah, it's a good question, Matt. We've celebrated our 50th anniversary this year. We celebrated just recently the 50th anniversary of the Bass Nation, which used to be called the Bass Federation. And those are huge milestones. But from the beginning of those times on through now, I think the rank and file member, supporter, subscriber at Bass has been interested in learning how to catch more fish. And that's been our mission, to help people catch more fish. And that's what Bassmaster Magazine focuses on, not so much who won the tournaments. And I've always felt that our readers, they care how, say, Kevin Van Dam caught his fish. They don't much care that Kevin won. Of course, there's a lot of fans that just follow the tournaments who aren't necessarily members of Bass, and they are the million or so unique visitors that go to our website, or 2 million on 1.7 million in social media. Those are the fans that engage with tournaments. But the backbone of Bass is really in the people who just want to catch more fish.
So basically the backbone would still be there, because those are the people who want to catch more fish. As long as they're catching more fish, they're not really caring who is presenting that information to them, as long as it's correct and they're catching more fish because of it.
Yeah, exactly. And again, back in 2006, when there was a split, we had a lot of anglers who weren't as well known. Our stars went over to FLW, and it did not affect the readership or the circulation of Bassmaster Magazine in any way. And people still learn some great techniques. The beauty of tournament fishing, and it's been this way ever since Ray Scott held the first tournament in 1967, is that the guys who are on the water 200, 300 days a year, they become experts and authorities, and they have secrets that they can pass along. And we've tried to distill all that information give it to our supporters and our readers and members in a way that they can use it. And it doesn't really matter how many classics they've won. It's how many days they spend on the water and what they learn and what they can convey.
Dave, I want to go back to the packet that the anglers received, which basically broke down how the structure of the Elite Series payout is going to be for next year. What is the commitment to continue to try and maintain that established criteria for 2019 into the future? I mean, are you guys committed to having that last over 2 years, 3 years, or there's not a commitment in place?
If you're talking about the payouts, the investment in payouts?
Yes.
Yes. Chase Anderson, the director, who works alongside our CEO, Bruce Aiken, and represents the Anderson Media, which is now the controlling partner in the operation of B.A.S.S, have committed to continuing to contribute $4 million over and above whatever the entry fees might raise. So if we didn't charge any entry fees, then we'd pay out $4 million. If we generate $3 million in entry fees, then we'd pay $7 million. So yes, that commitment is there, and we intend to stay by it. We promised that we would do that, and we honor our commitments.
Wow, Dave, I've known you for a long time, man. I've got to ask, how many more years do you have left in you to continue this gig? You've been doing it for a long time.
Well, my warranty hadn't run out yet. I feel great. Love the sport. And in this situation, I'm definitely wanting to stay engaged, and I want to see the next chapter unfold. I'm excited about that. I think I still have some ways that I can contribute, and I don't think I could fish anymore if I were retired than I do now.
I got one more question, and I kind of like to go behind the scenes. I ask all the guys behind the scenes, but obviously when this thing started unfolding and it became apparent that the MLF tour was going to happen, you knew there were a number of different scenarios that could play out. A lot of guys stay with B.A.S.S. Some of the guys leave, some of the guys stay. A lot of guys opt to go with the MLF route, but as of now, there's I believe there's 67 now. Elite Series anglers that competed in 2018 are competing on MLF. Did you guys ever see this coming in B.A.S.S, that this many anglers would make the move, or was that kind of a surprise that has unfolded over the past week that the volume of B.A.S.S Elite Series anglers are making that move?
We really didn't think it was going to be that severe. We knew that there were some, and of course, there were a number of cup anglers already. Mm-hmm. There were about a dozen of them that owned half of Major League Fishing, and we knew they were gone. We thought maybe 40 or 50. We were surprised, but really over the weekend when they had to make their commitments, I think everybody saw that everyone else was leaving. It was a pack mentality, herd mentality, and everybody went at once. So we didn't expect that to be such wholesale exodus. We had a number of anglers who turned down the offer and decided to stay with us. They're very disappointed that some of their friends didn't stay, but their loyalty is important to them. But what happened is MLF just went down the line, went to their second and third choices, and so they were able to get as many as they wanted. And they're offering a good deal and promises of glamour and stardom and all the other things that they've been mentioning in their presentation. So I can imagine if I were in those angler shoes, it'd be very tempting to go this next new thing.
Let me ask a follow-up question. I said that was my last one. I got a follow-up question. You've got a lot of anglers who went from FLW to B.A.S.S. Now they're going B.A.S.S to MLF. So do you see a potential? Is there a scenario in the future where just like 67 leave to go to MLF, 67 leave MLF to come back to B.A.S.S in the future?
It happened with FLW, and I would expect that to happen. I mean, they'll try. We will have a smaller field, and you will have to qualify. And a number of the people who left us and went to FLW tried to requalify and couldn't do it, or it took them 3 or 4 years. So, no, we wouldn't welcome them back with open arms. In my point of view, I'm not the one who makes these decisions, but we'd welcome them back if they qualify.
All right. I have 2 more questions, Dave. One, I'm just really curious because I've heard some rumblings, but is there a plan for Tripp to retire, or is he planning on returning to the 2019 season? Can you answer that?
Yes, Tripp has committed to return for the 2019 season.
All right.
In your opinion, most underrated person in professional bass fishing, Tripp Weldon?
I thought he was highly rated.
No, most underrated as far as does not get enough props for what he does.
No, you're right. Tripp's a wonderful guy, and he tries his best to be extremely fair. We've been fortunate ever since Harold Sharp and through Dewey Kendrick to have people who wanted to make sure that there was a level playing field, that nobody got away with cheating. When there is someone fails a polygraph test, he's disqualified. It doesn't matter who he is, whether he's won the Classic or whether, I don't know that every other circuit has been as faithful to that that principle. But Tripp is just as true and honest and level-headed as anybody in the sport. And the anglers do like him. I can say that.
I know he's got a lot of respect for the anglers, and it's kind of like that deal. You don't realize what you have until it's missing. So hopefully there's a lot of years left for Tripp there.
Yeah, he was a tournament angler himself. In fact, he fishes probably a tournament every week and wins a lot of them. He's one of the best fishermen, certainly in bass, and he could hold his own on a lot of tours.
I'm not going to lie. He looked stressed out the second half of the year, Dave.
Yeah, he looked a little stressed out.
He looked like he wasn't thoroughly enjoying the occupation.
I'd let him speak for himself, but if I were in his shoes, and the people that he's weighed fish for day in and day out at these tournaments, and suddenly, they vote for something else. Yeah, it's got to affect him. But again, I'm not speaking for him. That's just how I would feel.
Yeah, that was just my observation. I wasn't speaking for him either. But
all right, Dave. The last question, and I think it's been pretty well established that a lot of the offerings and a lot of the actions that you guys have taken over the past 3 weeks has been reactive based upon situations that have occurred. And I know a number of people have asked me to ask you or a representative of B.A.S.S. is, will we see from this point going forward more proactiveness rather than reactiveness as far as taking care of the membership, the professional anglers, the open anglers, and really the entire entity that is involved with the brand?
Yeah, and first to your comment that this is all reactive, a lot of it was, and some of the details were shaped by what we thought was coming from the competition. But this was well underway. When the Andersons took over less than a year ago, immediately Chase, who's a director, began digging in and trying to find all he could about the Elite Series. He began talking to the anglers. We had an angler advisory board meeting that I was attending, and we had some great discussion there. We hired a consultant, and they conducted a focus group of the anglers to try to identify where our relationships needed to be fixed. We did a survey of the entire field that identified some other areas we needed to work on. So we were working already on increasing payouts, on improving exposure for the anglers, and getting more on on live and TV. And then MLF came along, and of course, I'm glad we had that head start, but we were already going down that road, and we would have, even if they had not materialized as a competition. But in answer to the second part of your question, yes, we are dedicated to serving the people who our customers and our partners, whether they be subscribers or members of Bass or sponsors, advertisers, fans, anglers, and even the media.
Cool. I like that. Being a member of the media and a member of Bass. So good for us, Matthew. All right, Dave, man, I really appreciate all the support over the years, and I appreciate you coming on the show and answering some of our questions, but definitely challenging times ahead, and wish nothing but the best for you and your staff to fill the field and continue to move forward with an iconic brand, because that it is. It is a very, very iconic brand in this industry, and I hope things will pursue success and things will work out well.
Yeah, Mark, we're not going away, and competition is painful, but it's good. Because it makes you stronger, and we're already working towards getting stronger, and you'll see the next generation of Bass in the coming months.
All right, Dave, take care. Tell everybody I said hello, and we will see you soon, man.
Thank you so much.
All right, take
Have a
care.
great day.
All right, see you. All right, there you have it. Dave Precht, and interesting questions answered a very interesting way, Matthew.
Yeah, and the guys I've talked to say Chase is committed to continuing this.
What it sounds like.
That it's not a
One and
that
done?
didn't work out and pull the plug and move on to his next venture. That he that he's vested in it and learning about it, and boy, there's just so much.
I'm telling you, it's been a left, a right, an uppercut. You've lost 90% of your field.
How much of this, and I was thinking about this the other day.
Well, maybe not 90, but
so like if you were in, let's use the NFL and USFL.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say they did it to where the USFL came along and said, "Hey, we're going to do the USFL, and we'll take your guys from the NFL, but we're not going to overlap schedules. It's just like a 6-week." The NFL, like when you sign a contract like that, are you allowed to play in other leagues? Like, can you play in the CFL and the NFL, or once you sign an NFL contract, are you in the NFL?
I can't answer
you see what
that,
I'm saying?
but I would assume that somehow, some way, that language is in there,
right? To where you can't. So 7-8 years ago, MLF comes along. Hey, we're doing our own thing. We're not scheduling it around like that. Would these changes, and I'm not saying it's bad on MLF, I'm saying would these changes in the industry have happened had Bass had a league exclusive contract? Would it have been a bit of an uproar there? But do you think the very first year of MLF, if you had a league exclusive and had told Kevin and Skeet and McClellan and all these guys, yeah, you can't fish the Elite Series and fish MLF, that it wouldn't have happened?
What, in the beginning?
In the beginning, 7 years ago,
Probably
when that
wouldn't have
started in
happened.
2011-12, because they just kind of ignored it, let them go over there, do their thing, and it built, and it built. Then they saw the excitement, and then they saw the sponsors going over there, and they saw the TV numbers going over there, and it built, and it built. But there was still nothing that Bass did to do it, which, I mean, that's growing the sport over there. So if Bass's true goal is to grow the sport, then you don't want to nip the competition in the bud, because you're growing the sport over there. The numbers are showing it. They're proving it. They're reaching a broader audience. But at the same time, you also don't want to potentially grow a competitor to your brand. It's weird if you look at how everything developed and then the different steps, and obviously not getting into some of the potential opportunities for a merger that have been hinted out by a number of different people who have been on the show.
The instant feedback's been blowing up all morning long, but I want to ask you this, Matthew. I've made the statement multiple times on the show about how the live viewership base will watch both. Okay? I may be wrong on that, because the assumption that I've made is that the star power is still going to be equal on both sides. In other words, does a fan of live watch live simply because of the person that's fishing, the big name guy, or are they watching it to be educated, to learn? Are they watching it because it is that competitive moment where you're going to have the thrill of victory or crash and burn? Or are they just watching it just simply as a fan? I don't know if we know the answer to that, but I still, in the back of my mind, believe that people will watch both. I think you may have a 60-40 or a 70-30 split if you don't have the name value that has departed the Elite Series. I don't know. After seeing the list, does that statement still come to fruition?
Look at our numbers for Bass Talk Live. You can get on, you can look at how many downloads you have per show and all that. You're going to have your core group of BTL fans who are going to watch every show regardless of whether we have a guest on or not or who it is.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say you have a big name on. Let's say we have a Kevin Van Dam on, which we have. Let's say we have a Gerald Swindle on. Heck, even the Jacob Wheeler show like that. There is definitely a bump in those shows over the shows where it's just us talking, or it's a different topic, or an angler who's not a 7-time Angler of the Year, 4-time Classic champ. I think that's a good indication of the numbers who watch live. You're going to get that whole group who watches live, but you're going to have a bunch of guys who are like, man, you think KVD catch another 25 pounds on the St. Lawrence River to close it out? How much? They're going to call their buddies because they want to watch Van Dam do that. So I think you get a bump based on who it is, but your core is going to watch it regardless of if they've never heard of them or not.
Yeah. Very, very challenging times. He didn't seem too stressed out.
Well, I mean, he has been through a lot. What's he going to, what good is stressing out going to do? I'm trying to work on that in my own personal life.
Yeah.
The stressing out, you could control what you could control, and the rest of it happens, and then you can be proactive to try to affect what happens in the future, but you just deal with it and move on down the road.
Yeah.
And he's been around and been through a lot. I mean, he's been doing it since I was -6. And I feel like I've, got 11 years in it.
Yeah. An interesting comment on the instant feedback. They want to know, how do you think Boyd Duckett will be viewed by his peers now? And do you think, or how do you think he'll be viewed 5 to 10 years from now?
You're tied with Boyd. Go for it.
I think there is a mixture. I think there's more people that view him as a visionary, but I think the people inside know that it wasn't just solely Boyd. Yeah, Boyd was at the forefront, but Gary Klein,
catalyst.
Yeah, Gary Klein was heavily involved with this. So it was definitely a group effort, but with Boyd being at the forefront from a name standpoint, I think a lot of the correlation between everything that's taken place and Boyd really has Boyd at the forefront. If he doesn't do what he did and Gary Klein, all of this doesn't happen.
I've talked to a lot of guys about a lot of things over the past 3 weeks. Everyone respects Boyd Duckett.
Yeah.
With maybe 1 or 2 exceptions.
Yeah.
But as
you're not going to please everybody.
Group, and I'm talking about guys who are fishing the Elite Series next year. I'm talking about guys who aren't even on tours. I'm talking about guys who are going over to the MLF. I'm talking about guys who are great business minds, guys who have spent the last 30 years on the water 6 days a week and don't know anything about business. They all appreciate and respect because of he's the kind of the figurehead of that group that changed that stuff. It's better for everyone.
And it is.
Who are fishing.
Yeah.
In that scenario. And the people understand that.
Yeah.
They may not understand all the channels that he goes through and how he gets it done and the business deals and the jets and the billionaire meetings, but they understand that because of what Boyd Duckett's doing, these changes have happened. The industry's better.
Yeah.
Fair statement?
Yes, absolutely. Now, 10 years from now, I think that what has taken place over the past 6 months, if not longer, but specifically over the past 4 weeks, will be an iconic moment in this game.
Yeah, we're sitting here living through it right now. And I mean, in the grand scheme of life, Mark, it affects thousands of people in their job. But in the grand scheme, it's
fishing.
Guys who are bass fishing, they're still bass fishing. They're just fishing instead of under B.A.S.S. It's now MLF BPT. Yeah. It's not earth-shattering. Dude, I go out of this door, you walk around, No one even notices this. You can go back, you start doing research. It's happened in dang near every single professional sport organizations, including golf, including the rodeo, including football, including hockey, all this stuff, major, massive, multi-millions, billions of dollars. And you know what? You're doing the same thing you are every single day. You're just watching it maybe on a different channel or not. It's not, I mean, it's really like, it's kind of for the average fan, it's one of those, it's like Sooner football.
Yep.
Like when they lose, it's earth crushing, and then you sit there and you go, man, I did the exact same thing this morning that I did yesterday before they lost.
Yeah.
Or before they won. So it's hard, it's easy in ours, and I'm getting a little bit of a rant here, but it's easy in ours to lose perspective and get, man, I'm not going to lie, I was freaking depressed yesterday. And we're level in this deal, right?
Yeah.
So I want to see everyone succeed and do it. But, you know, I was 13 years old. I got into it through the Casting Kids competition. I won the National Casting Kids Championship. The guys from the Assumption Bass Club
I'm with you,
made
man.
me the jersey.
I
It says
get it.
the Illinois Bass Federation. They let me fish with them when I'm 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, 4 years before they should. I'm following the stuff. I mean, I met Denny Brower. I've got Randy Block. I mean, these are the guys that were my heroes. And then I start fishing it, and I fish the bass stuff. And I'm in a Pontiac Grand Dam, red Grand Dam, got the rods out the back window, going fishing as a co-angler at it, go back through, end up fishing the Bass Nation stuff, make tuna. I mean, I'm vested in it. I've been to every single Elite Series since 2008, Mark. You've built a whole business on covering the bass.
I am with you.
So it's depressing when you're sitting there and you're like, holy cow, they just lost Jordan Lee, they just lost Brandon Polnick, they just lost Justin Lucas, they just lost Jason Chrissy, they just lost Gerald Swindle, they just lost Kevin Van Dam, Skeet Reese, all these guys. You're like, this is not the same thing it was when I woke up 2 months ago.
I know, man.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's hard to wrap your head around something that you feel like you completely understand and is part of you and is drastically changing before your eyes. That seems like is a pillar and is unchangeable because it hasn't changed in 60 years.
Couple of things from the instant feedback, and then we need to wrap things up. One, I believe it was David in Wisconsin said, what's going to happen if they go to a pay-per-view format for all the live coverage? Do you think that the same number of people would continue to watch? I would say no. What do you think, Matthew?
No, I mean,
the pay-per-view, the pay-per-view model just does not work right now. Now, if you put a camera in every single boat and you have the option to watch a particular angler the entire day in a field of 80, that might work. People might be willing to pay for that to see every single day a competition on a particular angler and pay for that. That could work. It's an enormous amount of cost, though. Very, very, very expensive.
Oh, I wanted to read something to you. Oh, I'll close the show out with this. This will really get you going.
And then the other thing is Brian wants to know, Mark, Matt, what do you think Bass needs to do right now at this point? You want to answer that, or I'll answer?
You answer. You're the business guy.
I think the biggest thing right now is they have to make a commitment to the guys that have made the commitment to Bass. They have to continue, and Dave said that on the show. We are going to continue with the commitment that has been made from a payback standpoint, from an exposure standpoint. Everything that they have promised, they have to deliver the next 2-3 years, whatever the commitment is. The second thing is they have to go, and Dave was very good at not really portraying that they're in damage control. But let's face it, when you get
gutted,
it's damage control mode right now. And I think that, will they survive? Absolutely. Will they hopefully continue to be proactive rather than reactive? It's got to be a yes answer. And the brand has too much brand just established. It is an iconic brand not to be able to continue and put forth with whatever path and whatever model that they choose to do. They still have the crown jewel, and the crown jewel is the Bassmaster Classic. And until they lose that crown jewel, that brand is still going to continue. Maybe not at the same level that it's been at, but I think, and I tell you this all the time, Matthew, And I tell my players and my students the same thing. When you make a mistake or when you make an error in judgment, even if you don't believe that is a mistake, learn from it. Learn from it. Valuable information, and really when it comes from a revenue standpoint and decisions that are made that affect the bottom line, when mistakes in judgment or errors in judgment take place, it's much, much better to be proactive and put forth the initiative to show everybody that is involved in your business how much you are committed to the cause, whatever that cause is. And I think that if they take that direction, which I feel somewhat confident that the commitments that they have made, they are committed to being proactive with those commitments and making changes that are necessary and listening, really important, listening to what the guys have to say. Agreed?
Agreed. So on a scale of 1 to 10, since September 11th, the announcement of the MLF B.A.S.S Tour, up until now, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being better than you could ever imagine, 1 being way worse than you could ever imagine, where's MLF?
One more time?
On a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
Since September 11th, the announcement of the MLF Pro B.A.S.S Tour.
Yeah.
And everything that's gone down.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this with all 3 organizations for you.
Yeah.
10 being way better than you could have ever imagined, 1 being way worse than you could ever imagine.
Okay.
Where's MLF?
9.
Where's B.A.S.S?
Wow, a 5.
Where's FLW?
Hey, hang on, let me back up a minute. I'll give B.A.S.S a 6.5. They're not failing because they did react. They did what they thought they had to do to try and maintain the field. But that's, 65 is a D, I guess.
What's FLW?
Man, I think they're just a 7. I think I think they made some changes prior to this whole thing that is going to benefit them. Yes, they've lost some big names, but I think their business model is totally different than the other 2 organizations, and they're going to continue to be successful with their business model. And you're going to continue to see guys roll up through the ranks because the structure that they have in place is right now the best structure in place for somebody to come from the minor leagues and make it all the way up to the big leagues. Agreed or disagree?
I agree.
Yeah.
So I'm not the context of this, but I want to end my portion of the show with this. From Don Barone's Facebook mark. This is what he posted. Okay. And obviously, if you've been following social media, it's exploded. There's fights. You got anglers' wives on there.
Man, it's
You've
brutal.
got angler and on angler. You've got people selected sides. It's ugly. So I'm not exactly sure what this is in reference to, but Don Barone posted this morning. He said, and it's just something to think about moving forward as you're reading all these comments.
Okay.
I think it's applicable. I like to read some of that stuff. John Cruz also has some interesting stuff out there. He said, let me tell you a story about why I'm sensitive to dumbass comments, something I've lived with for now more than 30 years. As an investigative reporter, especially with SportsCenter and Outside the Lines, myself and others would spend months going through mounds of documents, dozens of FOIAs, thousands of miles traveling to do hundreds of interviews, sit down with lawyers, go over scripts, 3 or 4 more sources, everything covered and buttoned down, and we would air it the next day, and talk radio would be lit up about how wrong we were, how we sucked, and so on and so on. It's part of the biz. I get it, but at some point you get tired of it. I fully support the First Amendment, so we deal with it, but suddenly opinions take on a life of their own and start becoming facts or quasi-facts that all cloud the legit work. So let me ask you a question. Do you call out the dumbass comments, take time to state the facts, and ask them for their facts as well? Do you let it go? Let it go, understanding the most intelligent people can separate fact from fantasy. I worry, though, that uninformed comments left unchallenged become some sort of fact. Many organizations are removing the common ability and going back to the old way the letters were. Anyway, do you not agree with that statement 100%?
Mm-hmm.
You watch these threads take on a life of their own, and by the end of it, you've got some dude on the Texas Fishing Forum that's ready to drive to Vermont and punch some dude in the face because he's not planning on watching the Classic this year.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's also a lot of the things. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we could talk about, a lot of directions we could go down, but we stick with what we know to be true and the facts.
This is true.
And, a lot of things have changed. Last week in one of the BTLs, I said, I think a group of guys are going to stay with B.A.S.S. Did I not? I was pretty convinced of that fact. Dave Precht actually alluded to that fact too. What happened? 6 of them stayed.
Yeah. So a number of people on the instant feedback want to know, hey, what are we going to cover next year? We're going to cover all 3. I mean, we will continue, especially here on BTL, to showcase all 3 tours. As far as being on location, we are currently in the decision-making process right now, Matthew. We're not going to come out with an announcement, all right? But what I can say, what I absolutely 100% can say is we're going to cover all 3 tours.
I have one more thing to say.
All right.
I believe at the end of the show, someone called me a dumbass because Steve Kennedy.
Yeah, I can't remember
They
who
said that he
was.
didn't make over $250,000.
300,000, I think, is what it was.
No, it was $250,000. He made over 300,000 in 2006, and almost more than that in 2007. Steve Kennedy actually listened to the show and texted me the actual numbers after the show. So I was right.
You're always right, man.
Nah, I wouldn't go that far.
You got to keep going there. I got to get things set up.
Oh, for the bumper music?
Yeah.
Or I thought you didn't have another video to close things out with?
No.
No, I got a little heated in this show. I was passionate.
The brand means something to you.
The brand means something to me, and I don't think I realized how much the brand meant to me until the brand started changing.
Yeah.
Now, MLF's challenge is, can they develop that brand being only 7 years old? Can they use the next generation of anglers to develop the loyalty to that brand the way that Bass has developed a loyalty to the brand over the past 50 years? If they're able to capture that and do that, then the sky's the limit.
We shall see, my friend, but we will continue to talk about it. All right, Thursday, who do we have lined up? We're still working on that?
Yeah, we're still working on that. We should definitely have a full idea of who the field is. I'm trying to decide on which way I want to go on this. Maybe one MLF guy, one Bass guy, maybe a couple FLW guys.
All right.
We'll figure it out.
All right, and then on Thursday, too, I am rolling out the prize pack. We will discuss on what's going to go down.
Oh, that's why I was trying to call you this weekend. You wouldn't answer your phone.
Well, I was busy.
I had some ideas for rolling out the shows the next couple weeks that can get the fans involved.
All right, we'll talk about that. We'll
Call
talk
me
about
back.
that on Thursday. And then we're going to give stuff away again. All right? Giving stuff
Elite
away.
Series invites only on BTL.
That's not true. That's pretty funny. All right, everybody, be safe. Enjoy the fun fall weather. Get out, try and catch a couple. And we will talk to you on Thursday. Everybody, stay tuned.